Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of the UK Connection. And of course, it wouldn't be a UK Connection show without my two wonderful friends from the UK, Mr. Simon Bray and Mr. Steven Reid. Good afternoon. Actually, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Afternoon,
good afternoon
here in the States. Evening by you. Even on the day that's not Saturday, it's still the same configuration. So, yes, indeed. So we've got another least favorite show for you today. This was kind of a fun one because we've been asked by a lot of viewers, what about Angel? You guys like Angel? And we like Angel quite a bit, but they don't really have a big discography. However, there are two other bands that are kind of part of the Angel history, family tree, what have you, that are also pretty notable, and they don't have big discographies either. So we figure, why don't we just kind of throw them all into the mix? And let's do favorite, least favorites, and a wild card for Angel, Giuffria, House of Lords. Right. So I think between the three, there's about a dozen albums, right? Thereabouts, something like that. 11?
There's shitloads of House of Lords.
Yeah, I think there's 14 studio albums, something like
14?
that.
What the hell was I looking at today?
So, including Angel, we're over 20. I think Angel and Giuffria.
Giuffria, I've listened to the live album today. Giuffria.
Greg's band.
Yeah. Yes.
Greg with a double G.
The double G.
So oh yeah, you're correct. What the hell was I looking at? God, I was looking at something else. I had a couple of House of Lords albums, and so I don't know what I was looking at. Anyway, I obviously did not listen to all the House of Lords albums that I should have for this Simon because I thought they only had like 5. I don't know what I was looking at. Yeah, they have a ton.
That's it. Cut.
That's it. All right, I can't compete in this one. All right, well, that's all right. I'm going to play along anyway. But I'm sure there's a couple stinkers in the House of Lords catalog that are probably worse than my pick. But because I spazzed out on this. But anyway, back to program at hand. So we're going to go through. We're going to pick our 2 favorite albums from these 3 bands, our 2 least favorite albums, and a wild card, as we normally do. But before we get to that, of course, Simon's going to kick us off with his beverage selection of the day.
Yes, I am. Because obviously I've just come directly from the pub, which is cool, don't you think?
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. But
that's why he's so happy, Stephen.
Yes.
I've gone all big train today. You see, I can get in the prog seat. I can do that. Yeah, I've got for one that's called Wassail. Do you see what I did there?
Oh, yes. Nice.
All right, because when I got my Wassail, obviously that's when I got the Chalice of Destiny.
Oh,
if that is not a thumbnail, there will be trouble, or even this. Yeah, either way, so I've got some Wassail. It's 6%. Yeah, there's some story about it, but let's just drink it, shall we? Let's just enjoy. I feel as though we should. You know what makes sense? Because I am a medieval baron.
You are indeed. Yes, you are indeed.
Yep, nice. Yep, Simon Bray appreciates that.
Are you going to sing us some Big Train now?
No.
What's it? Anyway. Yeah.
I could feasibly do folklore, and that's probably about it.
That's all right. That'll do. Right. Well, I've had a very, very busy week this week. First off, I'm not feeling very well. I've got a cold, a sore throat, and all this kind of stuff. So, apologies if I cough and splutter and talk even less sense than normal. But I've been to see Arena on Monday. I went to see 10cc on Tuesday. I've not had much time to do fancy ale shopping. So I've gone for a cupboard favourite of mine, Redcastle Brewery, East Coast of Scotland. I've got a Cannonball IPA, and I've also got a Monster Hop Amber Ale because I am self-medicating this evening. So I'm feeling sorry for myself. So we may end up with both of these being supped. There's also wind and rain outside, clattering on my window. So if you hear that during the show as well, it's just for effect. It's atmosphere.
Nice, nice. 2 beers for the price of 1. Not feeling good. Self-medicating. All right, here we go. Looks good. Looks good. All right, I'm going to Vermont once again. I have my Burlington Beer Company glass, but I've got a beer here from Zero Gravity Brewing in Vermont. It is their Marzen Lager Oktoberfest.
They're what?
Oktoberfest.
Marzen Lager.
Marzen Lager, yeah. I guess that's what the Germans call an Oktoberfest beer. It's a Marzen. And this is a classic Bavarian style Marzen lager brewed with all German ingredients, 5.4% alcohol, 12 ounces, Zero Gravity Craft Brewery from 718 Pine Street in Burlington, Vermont. Smells good. Smells like an Oktoberfest. As you can see, it's kind of got that caramelly amber color.
I always thought Marzen meant Bavaria, but what do I know?
Maybe it does.
It came from Bavaria.
It does. You always know more than I do, Simon.
Well, that's my job in life, isn't it, Stephen?
It is, and you always achieve it too. That looks beautiful beer.
It's really good. Yeah, it's really good. For me, when it comes to Oktoberfest, I used to like them more than I do now. But like I'll generally, if I'm in a mood for a Oktoberfest, I'll go get a Spaten. To me, Spaten kind of is the gold standard for Oktoberfest. But this is quite good. Sorry, this is really good.
It is a little unsettling as I watch Simon drink it of somebody else's hand, though. I just says other hand appear on the screen.
Yes. Where'd that come from?
It's really unsettling because I've got my tripod on top of a stool above my laptop. So, hey. Have I mentioned I've got a new camera?
Glass. That is so awesome. I need one of those.
Should a tripod not mean that you don't have to put it on a stool?
No, a tripod makes it smaller than the laptop. I'm just so confused by life. Modern life just confuses me. It's a little tripod.
Ah, okay. It's a tripodlet.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Tripod mini.
Yes.
Yeah, that works. They all do. As long as it does a job, that's all that matters. So anyway, Simon's going to kick us off with his number 2 favorite, I guess. And we'll see where we go with this. This will be interesting.
Am I doing 2 and 1?
Man over the others? Is there? Are we going to see picks from across the board? We shall see.
Yeah, we usually do 2 and 1, don't we?
Do them favorites. Yeah.
Super, excellent. Okay, I'm excited by this. Well, because do you know what? I'm going to make a controversial statement right out of the gate. There isn't what many people are describing as a metric fuck ton. Yeah, swear word from Simon. A metric fuck ton of really great music within the entire Angel universe.
Yes.
I don't think. I could leave that sentence there, couldn't I? I'm not allowed to think. That's what Mrs. Simon says. But I don't think there's an absolute 100% solid gold classic album in the catalogue. But what there are is some absolutely fantastic records. They're nearly there, but not quite. Stephen, you're going on now. Oh, never mind. So, that's my controversial statement. But my very favourite. And this is favourite, not best. Let's always remember that, shall we? Because I'm not going to choose what I think is probably their best. I'm going to choose what works for me. Okay, and what really, really works for me is House of Lords. Are we ready, kids? World Upside Down. Look at that. Shows it to the camera. Everyone's happy. Yeah? Not happy about some of the follicular arrangements here, but nonetheless. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what do you reckon? Stasi 1990, or no, with the beret and stuff like that. But what a great record! I love this record. I can even tolerate. There you go. I can even tolerate the Mask of Eternity Overture number 1 as it starts. I can just about tolerate it. Some of my very, very favorite songs of all time are on this record. We were discussing, were we not, on social media earlier, Stephen, that House of Lords, they're on Frontiers Records, but they're not like everything else that's currently on Frontier's record. They're a little bit heavier than everything else, and they've always ploughed their own kind of path. You know, they keep the songwriting mostly in-house, and there's some really, really great tunes on this. They're really, All the Way to Heaven is absolutely magnificent. There's nothing better than driving down the streets of East Lancashire, crooning along to that one. Nothing. There's just nothing better in life than that. Rock Bottom, Million Miles. But my absolute favorite is SOS in America. I don't think there are enough melodic rock tunes about sexual exploitation. I really don't. But when I'm genuinely not taking the piss. You listen to that, you think, that's just, wow, what a great, but so dark. The lyric is so dark, really, really dark. And you know, I think I said this previously. I like the juxtaposition of heavy lyric and great sing along tune. And then you think, God, that's like about Prince Andrew or something like that. But just really a brilliant song. I remember when I saw House of Lords, actually on this tour, I think, I was like, are they going to play it? They're not going to play it. It's been a long time in the set. Why is there no keyboard player? Then they played it, and it was like, absolutely, you know, when you're waiting for your favorite song, and sometimes they play it first, which is really annoying. But they played it, and you know, this is as complete a record, a complete album, I think, as in my opinion, anywhere within the catalogue. I utterly love it. Always have, always will. I want to say Jimmy Bell is one of the best guitarists I have ever seen live. He's phenomenal. He's clearly got so many chops and could, if he really wanted to, just wank himself silly on every song, but he doesn't. Yeah. He doesn't. He just plays within the song, within the boundaries, brings it back to the melody. Everything's good. He's such a good guitarist. And you think, why has nobody ever heard of him? Why is he not in the conversation anywhere? And he's really, really excellent. And if you've never got around to it, World Upside Down, it's a real winner. Can I carry on?
Yes, please.
Excellent. Because you know what? I've watched Pete's Angel thing. Yes. And it might be possible that you've spotted that your Uncle Simon, he tends to live on the edge of pop. Yeah. He does. By a very long way, actually. My favorite Angel album, is simple. It's not many people's favorite, but it's mine.
It's all that matters.
Yeah, indeed. And you know what? There you go. Yes, indeed. But I'm thinking of actually filling this in, and you know, because Angel wants to know about me.
Oh, mine doesn't have one of those, I don't think.
Yeah, they want to know about me. They want to send me some fairly shit merch, but nonetheless, they want to know about me. And I think for, 30, 40 years later, they still do. Yes, they do.
I want fairly shit merch.
Hashtag me too. Yes, indeed.
But, Steven realized that he doesn't have that. He's going to be scouring the internet looking to buy that from someone. Yeah. Someone on eBay selling it. You know they are.
One of the great...
Sorry, Simon. I have actually gone down the Angel rabbit hole on eBay this week, and there are tour programs and promo posters and a whole load of things that I really could genuinely be thrown out of the house for spending my money on. It's that expensive. But tempted.
Very much so. Now, I think Pete pointed out last week that one of my key things is when bands are quite concise about what they want to say. Yeah. And that's very much the way. But another thing that I think I pap on about endlessly is joy. Music that makes me joyful. And side one with this record makes me so happy. And you know what? I think it makes the band happy as well. Yeah. LA Lady is a fantastic tune. And clearly, I'd like to say the boys had a great time making it because it sounds like they did. Fingers, Greg. I hear you, Punky. Oh, yes, indeed. I love that kind of shit. I really do. It's definitely. I mean, look at the hair. I mean, we'll come back to the hair later. Yeah. It's just look. I mean, just seriously, just wow. Look,
They look like the biggest rock stars in the world on that album cover. And it's
Yeah.
it's ironic that they weren't, but yeah,
exactly,
they look
exactly.
This
And
is mean and moody.
oh yeah.
yeah, and he kept much of that hair, in his own band,
In a
didn't
cupboard?
he?
No, in a cupboard? No, no.
No, that's James. That's James Christian. Yeah. Just an absolutely joyous record, but it doesn't sound. Yeah, that's why Roy Orbison's no longer with us. But it doesn't sound, does it not? Yeah, much like early Angel.
No, it
The
doesn't.
keyboards. The keyboards are more piano-y. Yeah, that's a great description. And not as pompy. They clearly, because like nobody bought any of their albums, did they really? It's not like they were hits. They were definitely before their time. Definitely before their time. And they were clearly trying to sell more records, and they moved towards pop. So there's, like most bands, there's an evolution or between all their albums, isn't there? And this is definitely close to the edge of pop than their pompy, more magnumy. Oh yes, I said it earlier stuff, but there'll be more of pomp and magnum later.
Cool.
Okay. So I came into this catalogue from the wrong end, okay? Because I started with this band or this catalogue through House of Lords. A friend of mine that I used to go to a lot of gigs with had the debut album, and as you did back then, I recorded it onto cassette and played it for a long, long time. Then I bought the second album, Sahara, and then I bought Demons Down, which was the third album, before I actually had any idea there was a backstory. And from there, I discovered Giuffria, anyway, and got into that. And it was only reading an issue of Kerrang! And Dave Reynolds, who has championed the band and writes all the liner notes in this chunky thing here, he reviewed the whole catalogue in one go as part of it. They were reissued in Japan, okay, back in 1992 in these nice things here, all in white, apart from the live album, which Gold Rush in Perth, who'd ordered all of these for me and thought I was thoroughly mad because these back in 1992 cost about £25–30 each. Okay, they then got me the American one of the live album, so it doesn't look the same. It doesn't matter. So I came into this the wrong way around. However, I took a punt on all of these. I hadn't heard any of these albums when I spent all of this money on them, which was kind of madness, that has to be said. But thankfully, it meant that I ended up with one of my favourite albums of all time. Not that madness, okay? I absolutely adore the 1975 debut album. I will thoroughly disagree with Simon and say that this is a Stone Cold classic. I think that this is just a phenomenal piece of work. I really do. Yes, is it magnumy? No, it's an American take on that pomp kind of rock sound. It's progressive, it's hard rock, it's overblown, it's phenomenal. It's what it is. And the combination of Greg's keys and Punky Meadows guitars, just out of this world. And Frank Domino on vocals, always way up here. There just seems to be this ceiling that you cannot get past. He doesn't want to, but he's not coming down. He's not coming down. It's always way up here. He's a singer that sings in the same note all the time. The best note in the world when he sings it. It's just so good. And I think this whole album is a triumph. Long time, rock and rollers, on and on, broken dreams, but Tower is where it's at. It's still their signature tune. It's the thing they re-recorded on their comeback again album. It's what they closed the show with when I saw them. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love it. So Angel's debut is my joint number one. Okay.
Can I just interrupt for one nanosecond? Where do you go though when track one, side one of your first album is that song? Because Christ, that's good.
Oh yeah.
Where do you go? I suppose that the answer is it goes down ever so slightly.
Yeah, it's just such a great tune. It just says, "Here we are. This
Yeah,
is what we
Here we're
do."
gonna serve up our greatest song ever, and everything we do after it's not quite gonna measure up.
It's not quite that way, but yeah, it's such a great tune, isn't it?
I am an advocate of starting an album with something phenomenal. And I would argue also that you couldn't put that song anywhere else on the album. That is an album opener, just the whole way that it begins, the way it builds, and it does set the stage for everything that comes. And yes, I will agree that the rest of the album doesn't quite come up to that standard. But when the standard is so high, I'm still okay with everything else being really, really good. So yeah, it's a Stone Cold classic. I mean, it's an album I go back to regularly, I have to say. So my second choice is House of Lords from 1992. This is Demons Down. This is their third album. Okay. And this is phenomenal stuff. The band had fallen apart by this stage. Okay. So you've still got Greg on keyboards, you've got James Christian on vocals. And already by this stage, I mean, we are in 1992, and this is as un 1992 as you can possibly get. I mean, this it should have had in brackets destined to fail underneath it, because it didn't matter if an album of this style was going to be good, bad, or indifferent in 1992, because it was with this sound, it was dead in the water. I mean, and that really is the story of it. But the lineup is still stellar. You've got Sean McNabb from Quiet Riot and Great White and Dokken and Burning Rain and Lynch Mob on bass. You've got Chick, who sounds like a good Scotsman. You know, it's wee Chick for Down the Road is on guitar, but it's actually a guy called Dennis Chick on guitars, who may or may not have played on the album, because there are two guest guitarists credited deep down in the credits somewhere. And you've got Tommy Aldridge on drums. And I kid you not when I say that this is actually one of my favourite Tommy Aldridge recorded studio performances. Yeah, he's worked with Ozzy, he's worked with Whitesnake, he's a great drummer. He is just phenomenal on this, but he doesn't overplay, and he does, in my humble opinion, have a tendency to overplay in places. House of Lords at this point were pompous, they were melodic, massive keyboards, they were still doing these big intro things. It's everything that 1992 was not about, but it's everything that my 1992 was about. And you just have to listen to this, really have to listen to any of their albums to understand what a vocal talent James Christian is. And he remains that. He can still absolutely cover it. Okay, he can still do it, sorry. And Oh Father, Demons Down, Talking About Love, Down, 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 Metallic Blue, the whole thing's brilliant. And they are great at a power ballad. And What's Forever For is a power ballad. And it's outstanding. So yes, that's my two, Angel and Demons Down by House of Lords.
All right. Well, for the sake of being predictable, I'm going to be a little predictable here. And strangely enough, my exposure initially to this trio of bands was not different than yours, Steven. The first album I ever got by these bands was the first self-titled Giuffria album. And then the next was the second House of Lords. And then I went and jumped into the Angel catalog. And I got to say, number two is hell of a band. I love the first two Angel albums. Sadly for me, I like the ones that came after this. I don't like them nearly as much as the first two. I think the first two albums are heavier. They're more progressive. I like the pop stuff they did afterwards quite a bit. Their music became more of kind of like a party band type of thing, and it's great. Any of these albums should have been big sellers. I think Angel is one of the many injustices in rock and roll history where you had a fantastic band on a great label trying to bank off the success of Kiss, right? And it just didn't happen. You know, were they too early with this? I think, you know what it is? I think this album and my number one were a little too late for this style of music. And then the rest of the catalog was too early for that style of music. It's like these should have came out in like 73, 72, 73, 74. And then the ones that came after these, like the one that Simon held up earlier, that would have gone over gangbusters in the 80s. So it's like they were too late and too early at the same time, which I think is just terrible. But because this should have been a huge band. But anyway, back to this. I mean, great songs on here. It picks up right where the first album left off. Feeling Right kicks ass. Greg's keyboards are amazing on The Fortune. I mean, that synthesizer stuff there is just killer. The Fortune to me is like the Tower Part 2. Amazing song. Any Way You Want It is good, hard rock and boogie. I love the heavy Hammond organ and Moog on Dr. Ice. Mirrors rocks, Pressure Point rocks. Chicken Soup is just a killer song. I mean, a great follow-up to a classic debut. Only bested for me by this. And I would say this is, in this whole catalog, to me, this is the absolute drop dead classic for me anyway. I love every song on here. We've already talked about Tower. If there's anybody watching this show who's never listened to Angel and you like 70s hard rock, go listen to, just stop us, go listen to Tower. If you're not moved by that song, I would be shocked. It's just, it's so good. Frank's vocals are off the charts. The guitars from Punky are heavy. The keyboards from Giuffria are amazing. Great stuff. Long time, killer song. Great vocal harmonies. Frank is amazing on that. You got Mellotron, the whole 9 yards. Rock and Rollers is just typical great kick-ass 70s hard rock. Broken Dreams got some Hammond organ, kind of like John Lord from Deep Purple. Mariner is a prog rock dream song with another killer Frank vocal, and then on and on and on. I mean, it's just they're great, catchy hard rock around the album. And then of course Angel Theme, which is cool too. So I love these. These to me go hand in hand. They're very similar, released a year apart. Their music changed fairly drastically with the next album. I think they were definitely being pressured to write catchier, radio-friendly songs. The album cover started to again play off on the glam aspect of it. Here, I mean, you get to see him on here, but this is not all about the looks and the, the outfits and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, for a while there, their album covers were starting to look like, if all they had were makeup on, they'd be Kiss Juniors, But yeah, unfortunately, it didn't quite do it for them. But yeah, there's a lot of really good albums in these three catalogs, but I've got to stick. Yeah, right there. I mean, that totally looks like a Casablanca release. And if I was a Kiss fan, and I was a Kiss fan back in the day, for whatever reason, I didn't buy that. I remember seeing it though. Yeah, it's a shame this band was not huge. I mean, I think they were good friends with Stars. I remember talking to Richie Rano from Stars a couple of years. I went to buy reissues of the CDs from him, and he insisted on talking to me on the phone. And I spent an hour with him on the phone talking. He was talking to me about how Stars should have been enormous and how they got fucked over by the record company. And he mentioned Angel had the same problem. I was like, oh man. But a lot of these stories happened around that time. So yeah, that's my number 1 and 2, the first 2 Angel albums.
Interesting, actually. Excuse me cutting in on you, Simon. Because Simon mentioned Evolution earlier. And yeah, well, not every band's sound evolves. There are a few that don't, but most certainly do. But Angel's change in sound was drastic.
Yeah.
I would suggest that from probably the second or third album on through Giuffria, House of Lords, then it's Evolution. But from the first 2 to what comes next, it's almost like it's a double take. Is it the same band?
Yeah.
I like it all. But there you go.
Well, what's interesting is I think Giuffria were right place, right time.
Yeah.
And that must have been, I'm sure Greg was happy about that, but he must have felt a little bit of frustration that, well, why couldn't we have had this kind of success at the latter part of the Angel catalog? Because music's not all that different, right? But again, those Angel albums, as they were in the late 70s, that kind of style really hadn't hit big yet, right? They release all those albums after Hell of a Band in 82, 83, 84, 85. The band is huge. There's not a doubt in my mind. They had the look, they had the sound, the marketing, everything. I think it was just they were too late to the game. Or no, too early to the game to really capitalize on it. Too late to the game for the early albums, too early for the later ones. I've always thought that.
I do wonder though if the image didn't actually go too far.
Maybe.
I think the image was a hindrance.
Yeah,
because rock and roll's meant to be mean and lean and dangerous, and I mean these guys are not mean, lean, or well, they're lean. They don't look mean. They don't look dangerous, but they do have the coolest logo because you can do that. There is a word
It
for
could be
that.
the best logo of all time, right?
Yeah. There's a word for the same upside down as the right way up. I can't remember it. I'll wait till
It's palindromic, isn't it?
I think there's a specific word for the actual turning it upside down, but I don't know. But there you go. But yeah, awesome. But I think the image went too far. It's not rock and roll enough.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem is that they're on a bit of a basket case of a label, weren't they?
Yeah, Casablanca was a strange old beast.
Leaping into what many people are describing as my next bit, which I think is wildcard, is it not?
No, least favorite.
Least favorites.
Oh, least favorite. Oh, but can I just do mention before I do least favorite them? There's a book called which I listen to on Audible, which is called "And Party Every Day" by Larry Harris, who was an executive at Casablanca. Oh, hey, if you want to know lots about Donna Summer, because they were in Giorgio Moroder, you can see that actually Angel weren't that right at the top of their list, compared to I don't know, Kiss.
Yeah, they weren't there. They weren't a priority, I don't think.
No, and it's really interesting listen. It really is. And Angel they were never really going to make it on that.
You had two rock bands on a disco label.
Exactly.
One was huge, and Angel was meant to be the other one that would be huge. So when it didn't kick in at the very start, and Casablanca was always right at the line of existence, well, there was the view was always going to go elsewhere, But then when you read other books as well, it very quickly unravelled at Casablanca, and they couldn't hold the catalogue together, and artists tried to jump ship and various things.
And radio ignored them, which I thought was strange. It's like they had plenty of radio potential. That's very odd.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Hey, I'll tell you what didn't have plenty of radio potential. He said going to least favourite. You see what I did there? That was a good segue, wasn't it? The Power and the Myth. You got that, Stephen? Can you hold that up? Because I only have ever had a review copy, and unusually for me, I didn't buy it again. And do you know why I didn't buy it again? Because I didn't like it. And I don't think I was the only person in the world. Because you know what it didn't really sound like? House of Lords. And much as I may have been on certain YouTube channels like this one and said, I really like the way that Europe changed their sound. Didn't really like, just didn't like this. Just not, no. What you want from House of Lords, and I'm sure we'll discuss the newest one at some point. What you want are big keyboards that blow everything out of the water. And no. I want to sound vaguely like themselves. You know what I mean? And Power of the Myth didn't, and it's giving me my disappointed face. I can get my shit together with everything else in the catalogue. The things that I really like about everything else, but this one, no.
You dislike it that much, Simon? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's. I don't like the production. I don't like the songs. I just don't like anything. I don't like anything about it. And I went back and listened to it and thought, yes, Simon, your prejudices are always correct. To be honest, I went back to the live album, Angel's live album, which I've never really liked, and thought, okay, it sounds like the drums are being played on a biscuit tin, but I really quite like it.
It's a lot of energy.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've never really particularly enjoyed that live album, and yet I've listened to it a couple of times this week because I wanted to. And that isn't that a good thing? You thought, wow, I've got it on cassette somewhere. So I thought I haven't listened to that for yonks, and now it's opening up a new thing for me, and yay. But Power of the Myth, I went, no, straight on to the next one. Let's do something else. So
move on.
So that's I was going to do the live. I thought I'm going to listen to this live album and I'm going to slag it off mercilessly, and I can't.
Are you telling me that even though we ask all our viewers every second week to choose 2 favourites and 2 least favourites and a wild card. You have again chosen 1 least favourite.
Yeah, like last time. But I do however, have a massive amount of wild cards.
Oh, well, I shall hurry then, because I do too.
I've gone wild card crazy.
I'm just putting it out there. I've had to bring a backup table. I've got that much product today.
Alrighty.
Have you got a backup ironing board?
No. I mean, to be fair, my ironing board hasn't actually left the cupboard for about 16 years. If we were all creased, who would care?
Indeed.
There we go. Anyway,
I
so
don't iron either.
there we go. I wrote the number down and then forgot it later on. There are 19 studio albums between these 3 bands. And there isn't actually one from any of the 3 bands that we're talking about here that I properly dislike. And yet this was still quite easy, because 1999's In the Beginning. Okay, so this was Angel's, well, it wasn't really Angel's comeback. Okay, I mean, the problem is that it's not. I mean, for a start, it's not really Angel. You've got, Frank Domino's there, Barry Brandt is there on drums, Richard Marcello's on guitars. I mean, Felix Robinson, he guests on a couple of songs bass. Punky Meadows guests on a couple of songs on guitar. Greg is just running businesses and doing other things entirely by this stage. Has no interest whatsoever in doing any of this. And that would all be okay if it wasn't for the fact that they sound like a Led Zeppelin covers band. And you think, why would I want to hear Angel being Led Zeppelin? It's really bizarre. I mean, Domino even goes as far as he's aping all the vocal styles, and it's an odd thing indeed. It's not a bad album. It's sessions and things that are thrown together. They seem to have recorded at different times. It's cheap and cheerful as a package and all these various things. It's not bad. It's just wrong. That's what it is. And that is my clear clunker here. Really don't dislike it. It just shouldn't be part of this catalogue. And that can be said also for Simon's Choice as well. The Power and the Myth. Okay. I had other contenders here. Okay. And I know that Simon wants to talk about these because we've been kind of touching on this on social media through the week. Okay. So my choices for least favourites. I had New World, New Eyes. So this is the second most recent House of Lords album. And I also have Saints Tenors. Okay. And that's unkind because this has been out for days. I have had a review copy for a little longer than that, and I have listened to it quite a lot. Admittedly, I've only listened to the proper CD 2 or 3 times. Okay. My issue, there's an issue with both. This one has outside songwriters on it. That's fine. Lots of bands do, lots of albums do. That is also littered throughout the House of Lords catalogue. But this doesn't really sound like House of Lords. There's kind of countryish things on here. Mark Zito is quite strongly involved in some of the songwriting, and it just doesn't come off for me. It's one of those albums I listen to and think, yeah, it's okay. Doesn't sound like House of Lords. That's an issue. And the new one has got Mark Mangold on keys. Now, that's a big tick in the box for me. I mean, it's touch. Not a massive fan of American Tears. Drive, She Said. I'm a real big fan of Mark Mangold's, but half of this album sounds really like House of Lords. And half of this album sounds like a Mark Mangold project. The keyboards are so pronounced, and it doesn't really gel for me. And it is interesting because it's the first time since Greg left the band, or they've reformed without him, that they've had a name keyboard player actually involved. And I got quite excited. I thought, favourites of both. I really like them. I'll let it settle. I've only had the physical copy for a couple of days. It hasn't really changed my mind on the review copy. I don't like streaming things because I just don't like streaming things. So I'll give it longer. However, 2004's The Power and the Myth. This was a comeback album for the band. And you do have the classic lineup almost here. You've got James Christian, you've got Chuck Wright, you've got Lanny Cardola, you've got Ken Mary. These are players. These guys are really, really good. And the keyboards on the album are from the likes of Derek Sherinian, Ricky Phillips. I mean, they've even got name guests on there as well. These guys are absolutely fantastic. But it's clear that the main people involved do not want to sound like House of Lords. That was not the point here, guys. It was put the classic lineup almost back together because Greg's still going. Right? He's just not playing. He is not interested in any shape or form. And it ends up with an okay album. It shouldn't have this name on the front. It's just a bit wrong. And I hate when you listen to anything, whether it's watching the band live or listen to a CD where you think, these guys don't believe in this, and these guys don't believe in this. The plus point of this is it was the catalyst for James Christian kind of wrestling the name of the band away and forming his own kind of thing round about it and doing some really great stuff after that alongside Jimmy Bell, who I'll also talk about again a bit later on. As Simon mentioned, what an underrated guitar player that man is. Really phenomenal guitar talent, really is. So that's my two least favourites, with a couple of kind of honourable or dishonourable mentions.
Cool. All right. So my number 2 least favorite. It's not a terrible album, but I remember how massively disappointed I was in this when it first came out. It's from 1986. It's the second album from Giuffria, Silk and Steel. And I see that Simon's got it behind him on the mantle, which my guess is he kind of likes this a bit. I'm not a fan of this album. I think the first album, the debut, ranks up there with some of my favorites from these 3 bands. I find this album is like very lightweight, too many sappy love songs. It's missing the bite and the anthems from the first album. There's way too many keyboards, and I love his keyboard playing, but there's a lack of guitar for me. It seems to me like they're trying really, really hard to be the next Journey on this album, and it just doesn't quite cut the mustard for me. I love the artwork. I was so excited when this came out, and I was like, and I remember buying this and thinking, yeah, this kind of sucks. And I didn't listen to it for many, many years afterwards.
See, when I put it up there, I thought, Christ, that artwork, it's awful.
I like the colors though. Yeah, I don't know. I always like the logo and this kind of, yeah, I don't know. I don't mind the artwork too much, but I'm not a big fan of it.
I thought what's Chris Overland doing in yeah, thank you. There he is. What's Chris Overland doing in Giuffria? Just no. I like it as a record, so
yeah, it doesn't quite do it for me. So that's one of them. I wanted to choose In the Beginning like Steven did, except I really don't feel that that's even an Angel album. I just discount it as an Angel album because it really isn't. It's Angel in name only, and it's just doesn't sound like it. It doesn't have the full band. I don't know. So I just discounted that. And unfortunately, and because I kind of screwed up, and there were like 6 or 7 of these House of Lords albums I did not listen to for a various number of reasons because I got the olds. So I went and listened to a few others that I'd never heard before because I've heard a few of these. I'm not a fan of Demons Down, Steven. Yeah, I think it's cool that Tommy Aldridge is on the album. He sounds fine. It's not a terrible album, but this
doesn't sound fine.
Way too many ballads for me. No.
He sounds fantastic. Tommy Aldridge does not sound fine on that album.
Well, fine me. He sounds he's Tommy Aldridge.
That's almost like saying that he's quite good.
He is quite good. He's really good. But it has nothing to do with him. I don't really like the song. It's just too many ballads for me. To me, interestingly enough, I said for this that there's too much keyboards and not enough guitar. I want more keyboards on Demons Down. I feel that Greg is just kind of not doing much of anything. I feel it's trying really, really hard in 1992 to recapture what was popular in like 1986, 87. And it's just, radio hits for this album were never going to happen in 92. And, when this type of music is completely on the out. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm familiar with a handful of House of Lords albums that I think are much better than this. I kind of screwed up because there's a couple that I did not listen to, but out of all the ones that I know, I don't like this one nearly enough as the others. So I get why people would like it. I don't think it's terrible. It's a little soft for me, but it sounds great. It's a great sounding album. The hooks are there. It's missing some things for me. So
that is the beauty of this process, isn't it?
Yes.
I keep saying to people in the comments, there's no right, there's no wrong. Yeah. It's favorites and least favorites.
I don't hate it. I'll put it that way. I don't hate it. I can totally see why you love it. I don't hate it. I don't really care for it much, but
I've read the comments, and it turns out that there are rights and wrongs.
Apparently, to some people, right?
Yes, it would appear so. Yeah. Some, to be fair, are in jest. Yeah. Not all. Not all.
I've taken injunctions out on some people.
Yeah.
Say that again, sorry, Simon.
I've taken injunctions out on some people. But my opinion's so wrong.
What I would say though, Peter, as well regarding Demons Down, is that it's part of my journey. No pun intended.
Right.
And yeah, and it's an important album to me in that sense. 1992, which I would still like to cover this in some shape or form on a show, was a musical beginning to become a musical wilderness for me. And there were important albums that came out about this time that I clung on to because it was important that bands made music that they believed in.
Yeah.
And I believe the House of Lords believed in Demons Down in a way that they didn't believe in the Power and the Myth, because that was an album where a band went, we should sound relevant, which is always going to equal shit. That's what that equals. Demons Down, yeah, trying to recapture a sound from the 80s. That's what this band did. Admittedly, James Christian has kind of reinvented them, but it's a completely different lineup by that stage. So that's a little bit more understandable. But I totally take it on board. As I say, I love hearing the different opinions because we shouldn't have to agree. That's the beauty of this.
And, you know, for me, like I was on board with the first two House of Lords albums. And then, you know, the 90s started and, you know, this kind of music kind of like went, and a lot of the music, a lot of the metal and whatnot that I was listening to the 80s all of a sudden is changing. Bands are breaking up or they're trying to fit in with grunge and alternative. And I went a totally different direction and I stopped listening to all this stuff for a number of years and just went straight into prog, old prog and new prog. So like bands to me like House of Lords, I kind of forgot about for many, many years until, I mean, they obviously never went away. And I've heard a few of their more recent albums, recent the last decade or so. And sounds like House of Lords to me, most of it. I haven't heard the new one, but the last couple, good, right? They're solid, really solid. I mean, it's great to see a band that kind of sticks to their guns despite, their style of music not being in anymore, not even close. But yeah, the quality is always there.
Yep.
All right, so Simon's wild cards. Simon's got his pack of cards.
Just disappear and come back in an hour. Yeah, I'm also definitely going to cheat as well. Steven held this up earlier. This Casablanca Records year's box set is just magnificent. And for a while here in the UK, it was about 15 quid, wasn't it? A couple of months ago. Really I checked earlier today, and certainly Amazon don't do it anymore. So Yabu sucks really in many ways, but it's really good.
Does that have all the albums on it, Simon?
It's got all the Casablanca albums, including the live one, and a rarities disc. There you go, which I listened to today and just sat there grinning from ear to ear. Just really, really, really good. If you can get it, fine. It's got some good liner notes and everything. Just really, 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 really excellent. I heartily recommend Sahara.
I have all of them on CD, but I may get it anyway.
Yeah. I just wanted to show that I've got it on cassette. Also the House of Lords album, also on cassette. What a dismal cover that really is. But I really, really, however, want to talk about Giuffria, the first album. Yeah. I mean, do you remember when we did Manowar and we talked about how ridiculous they looked and how effete? All right, check your eyes on that, ladies. Oh yeah. Very much so. Yeah. But equally, do you remember when we did Perfect Album Sides? Do you remember when we did that? When we got invited out of our little square team and I chose Dan Marangis, I so very, very nearly chose side one of this. I think it's absolutely unbelievably brilliantly fantastic. It's such a warm record. The keyboards are magnificent. I think this was the absolute culmination of Greg Double G's career, the first side of this. Do Me Right, Call to the Heart, Don't Turn Me Down, Dance. Oh, dance. I mean, Jesus Christ, the only person who could dance to that is your Uncle Bob. Nobody else could dance to that. It's the only way to dance. It's like the least dancey tune ever. Lonely in Love is so magnificent. It's just absolutely brilliantly fantastic. And if you ever get the chance to see the video for it, it's genius. Utter genius. Now, Greg Double G, he likes a keyboard. But he likes to be surrounded by keyboards.
That he does.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so difficult to play, and he's playing, yeah, exactly. There's surely only so many keys that can be on one record. Am I right? Now, you see, if you go and see House of Lords now, you just see like somebody actually do that, don't you? Yeah, and then they play the songs. But yeah, yep. But he's playing them. He's got the massive hair, and David Glenn Isley's got like ridiculous 80s clothes on. Oh, it's just absolutely fantastic. It's the most fun
He's
you can
like
ever have.
to me, he's the Rick Wakeman of pop rock.
Yeah.
As far as
don't mention Rick Wakeman. Let's not do that.
You don't like Rick Wakeman?
Let's not mention him.
Okay.
There's no
others will now below.
They will, and they do. And they do everywhere I go. Yes, indeed.
Did you leave your cape in the pub, Simon?
Sorry?
Did you leave your cape in the pub?
Yes, I did. But yeah, I just want to say that side one of this is absolutely brilliant. Side two is really good as well. Really, really good. But side one is it's the absolute perfect pompy, melodic AOR. I reckon Tony Clarkson sat there going, oh, I can do that. I can do, and I can do it with an almost equal lack of real success. Because only, you said earlier what a right place, right time. It only made about 26 in the US, didn't it? And made absolutely nowhere over here.
No.
Which is a shame because it's just a great record. I love it with all my heart and soul.
All to Your Heart was played on the radio a lot, and it was on MTV quite a bit. I'm actually shocked that album didn't do a little better than it did, because, that was, Journey were riding high at that point, and this is not that far removed from what people already liked out of that band. So yeah, I was pretty surprised that they didn't get bigger than they did. The follow up didn't do anything at all. But
as Simon mentioned, in terms of profile over here, I could listen to the House of Lords debut album and not have heard of anything that had happened before, because Angel's profile was that size too. Yeah. It's just neither band had any presence over here whatsoever.
Yeah, and when Pete looks at the views for this, that's the UK connection doomed, isn't it? Really? So, it's not like we've chosen Def Leppard or AC/DC again, is it? But no. And I'm going to make it even worse any second now, because Steven,
yes.
you made a prescriptive list on social media earlier this week, and you tried to tell me what I could and couldn't do.
No one can do that, Simon. No one.
That's right, because this is the Angel universe. This is with anything with any form of tangential touch towards Angel, and I really like, because we've spoken often, haven't we, about some kind of melodic rock kind of show, and I can't think of any other way to fit in how much I like Robin Beck's "Living on a Dream." I also like Trouble or Nothing as well, but this is the one that I've really enjoyed listening. Look, it's Simon and Robin Beck. Have you ever seen those two people in the same room? There you go.
Well, Simon, that's all to do with the restraining order.
Thanks for that. Okay, it's got the House of Lords people all over. It's just really good, solid melodic rock record from a time when a certain Italian record company actually made things by artists that made it themselves, didn't have them told prescriptively what to do, have it all written by the same person, and all sound like the same shit. It's a really good record, and she's got a really great voice. Sometimes it borders on. It gets a little bit husky, so much that you think Pete might adopt her. Just really quality record. 17 Forever. Who doesn't want to be 17 forever? Yeah. Okay. Just excellent. The only reason I chose this and not Trouble or Nothing is because some of the songs on Trouble or Nothing have been covered by other people, and I've heard them too often. But they just seek it out, find it. It's proper proper melodic rock with, you know, hooks and melodies and the kind of stuff that you don't get these days. And it gets a big stamp of approval from your Uncle Simon.
Very good.
So have you wildcarded?
I've wildcarded, and I just wanted to choose something that you said I couldn't do. So,
Well, I will mention that I did say that really you could put anything in the wildcard slot. Anything.
Chuck Wright's been on quite a lot of albums, hasn't he? I've got some.
And
No, I don't really.
I am going to stay true to that. Okay. I make no apologies for this. Lots of people, because lots of people love all of these bands, okay, are going to say, oh, but they didn't mention Craig Goldie, guitarist in Giuffria. They didn't mention, you know, Alan Krieger, who was a drummer. He's great. Lanny Cordola on guitars, House of Lords, Magdalene, Tamplin. Okay, you've got across the House of Lords catalogue, you've got Ken Mary, Chuck Wright, Doug Aldrich, okay, Michael Guy, Tommy Aldrich, you've got Tommy Dan Anders taking part in some of these albums. Now you've got Mark Mangold. There is absolute legendary stuff in this catalogue. Now, to let you deep into my psyche, okay.
Oh shit!
When I was absolutely, I'm sorry. Okay, when I was but lad, I spent, before this magical thing called the internet was ruling our lives, I spent my time with books like this. Okay, and this is just lists of albums, and it just tells you who'd been on what and what bands they'd came from and what bands they would go to. And I do love a rock family tree. Okay, I absolutely adore these kind of books where, you know, it's just a list of who played in what and why and what other thing.
Encyclopedias for music nerds. Come on, that's what they are.
Okay.
You do realise who you are, don't you, Peter? Just checking.
I'm not denying reading those things too.
You do realize that
I'm one of them. I'm one of them. Yeah.
You've never met.
I thought I was one of the only people. I see Steven pull those books. I'm like, thank God there's someone else besides me who did that same shit when I was younger.
That's only two of them. I could have brought many more. Could have brought many more. Okay. They're the ones that are still in best condition after all these years. Because I really genuinely used to sit for hours just looking through and reading, right, I need to buy this, or write this on my list for what I'm going to put. Anyway, so my wild card is the really extended catalogue of these three bands, because there's lots and lots that these guys have all been involved in. Not necessarily the main players, although Bucks, of which I don't have a prop, B-U-X. So it's a 1976 album recorded in 1973 called We Came to Play, and it featured both Punky Meadows and Mickey Jones, who both went on to be in Angel. They released one album, and it is excellent. It's just really excellent, early to mid-70s hard rock. It's got lots of character. It's got an early version of Angel's White Lightning on it, which is absolutely phenomenal. Then you've got gems such as David Glenn Isley's The Lost Tapes from 2001, okay? Because David Glenn Isley didn't do much after Giuffria. He didn't go on to do a great deal. But what this album is it's really the demos for the House of Lords debut. Okay, there's a few other things on there which oddly are placed right in the middle of the track listing. Okay, so if you go online, you will find a Giuffria album called Giuffria 3.
Yep.
Okay, so go into YouTube, give it a listen, and you'll discover that most of it ended up here, but all of it is on here. And this sounds better than most of the stuff that's on YouTube. And David Glenn Isley was a great singer. Really, really good. And it's odd because what we haven't covered is the reason that he got ousted from the band, and he was ousted from the band, was because House of Lords on this one ended up on Simmons Records. Good old Gene. And of course, Gene and Greg and Angel and had all been on Casablanca. They were all friends. They all knew each other. So when Giuffria fell out of favour, Gene came in, saved the day. You can be part of my new record label, okay? One of the first uses of the signature that he has on everything now, the dollar thing. But you've got to ditch your singer because he sounds shit. He really doesn't. He really doesn't. And you've got to change the name because the name's nonsense. The name's nonsense, by the way. I agree with that. House of Lords is a better band name. I'll go with that. But oddly enough, you listen to these two back to back, and these guys sing really similar. So it's not like Gene was like, do you know what, you guys are going in a totally wrong direction. In my humble opinion, what Mr. Simmons was going was, I'm in charge. That's all that was about.
This comes from the guy who says that rock is dead right now. Come on.
Ah.
We shouldn't believe anything Gene Simmons says.
Yeah, he means rock is dead, as in you can't make the amount of money that he did. That's all he's interested in. But
Right.
there you go. So from there, David Glenn Isley did go into a different band, Dirty White Boy, Bad Reputation, the one only album from 1990. Some demos are on that other CD that I held up. Earl Slick on guitars here. Kenny Richards, who was a drummer in Autograph, is on here, and a guy called F. Kirk Alley on bass. Okay, it's more hard rock with a touch of blues. With Earl Slick on it, that kind of makes sense. It's really grown on me over the years. Really wish there'd been more of that. Having Chuck Wright on things is a sign of approval for me, because the guy doesn't tend to do many poor projects. He got me into Heaven and Earth because his name was connected with them. This is their 2012 album, Dig. This is one of the best modern classic rock albums that you'll find anywhere. If you don't know Stuart Smith's guitar playing, you are missing out. Yes, it's just rainbow updated, but man, oh man, it's the best example you'll find anywhere. Okay, there is Freak of Nature. Okay, so that guy Chick, Dennis Chick, turned up in Freak of Nature with Mike Tramp from White Lion. They did 2 albums and a demo collection, which is maybe the best of 3 actually. This is our second album, and it's just phenomenal. This is the best way, one of the best examples of a melodic rock group of musicians going, can we fit into the 90s? Yes, they can. It's not a grunge album. It's just a gritty, hard rock album with a lot of attitude. It's great. Okay. James Christian going solo in 1994, Rude Awakening. It's a bit House of Lords. It's not really. You add some new flavors. It's a bit of a drum machine. So there's a little bit of an issue there, but it's really, really good. You've got Lanny Cordola on here. You've got Mike Slamer from City Boy, 7 Key and Streets on here. It's really good. If you like House of Lords and you haven't delved into James Christian's solo stuff, you really should. You've got Max Explosion. Okay, so this, not happy with putting a new band together. When James Christian goes out and does some solo stuff, well, the other guys have a band that they formed together. So this is Jimmy Bell. This is BJ Zampa on drums, Chris McCarville on bass and vocals, and this is Max Explosion. So think House of Lords without the keyboards, with the guitars ramped up here. It's riffy as hell. This is called Forever. They've only done 2 albums. This was from 2013. It was their debut. I love this. I think you'd love this, Peter. This is absolutely brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And interestingly, it's got a guy called Mark Zito on keyboards. Hence, I think why he helped with some House of Lords albums and didn't help at all. And lastly, I've got to mention, because they've not been on very much, Frank Domino has not done very much outside of Angel, which is a real travesty. So this is his one and only solo album, Old Habits Die Hard. The only other thing that I've got with him on it is a Paul Raymond Project EP, which is also pretty good. But that's really good. And Punky Meadows' solo album as well. From 2014, 2015, they came out about the same kind of time, and that's what started Angel off again, realistically. So there you go. There's a whistle-stop tour of the non-Angel House of Lords Giuffria wild cards.
The wild card here today just turned into Ken Golden's honorable mention list.
I was painfully aware of that, Peter, yes. I am safe in the knowledge that I don't think Ken will like any of these 3 bands enough to watch this show.
No, he won't. He won't. He won't. We'll have to tell him about it on Proxy on Tuesday. All right. So, well, I'm sticking to the formula. I've got one for my wild card. And so this was kind of tough because I think there's some albums I really, really like a lot in this catalog, and some that I'm kind of like, they're good, but not quite. I almost picked the self-titled Giuffria debut here, but that's not a true wild card, because that to me is probably my 3rd favorite. If we were to do like top 3, that comes right behind the first 2 Angel albums. I really like that album a lot. It's really good. So I wanted to go with something that's probably right in the middle of all these albums, but still really, really good. And that's the House of Lords debut from 1988. Really strong debut, great songs, rocks really hard, actually. It's definitely heavier than the Giuffria albums, maybe not quite as hook laden, but still some really good songs on here. Pleasure Palace is terrific. Edge of Your Life, Slip of the Tongue, Jealous Heart, all strong songs. James Christian is a hell of a singer, and he
Isn't he?
sounds fantastic on here. I think he sounds great on their second album too. Because I actually bought those two when they first came out. But there's a nice balance on this debut between the hard rock guitars of Lanny Cardola and Greg Giuffria's keyboards. I think they're really you get enough of both. There's not like, because on some of these other albums I don't hear enough of one or the other. Here it's all perfect. Ken Mary, what a beast that guy is, man! What a great drummer. I think everybody shines on this album, and I think, as far as like a debut goes, you got three bands here we're talking about. All three debuts are really, really, really strong albums.
Mhm.
So that's my wild card. But yeah, it's funny because I think that, like I mentioned earlier, House of Lords was a band that I got into early on, and then just kind of like just stop following them. And then, they obviously, we support Frontier Records here on SOT, so we get their new albums all the time, and you hear them, it's like, oh, these are good. And if you don't buy them right away, 6 months later there's no CDs to be found anywhere. You got to pay like $50
And
for it.
the
Yeah,
prices
it's
do
ridiculous.
that.
So it's like, I've often thought, it's like, I should probably start buying some of these again, but now good luck finding them, and there's so many of them, so it's just like, yeah, really, really good band. And I think that because a lot of the House of Lords material is fairly rockin', fairly heavy, I think that's why they appeal to fans of like melodic metal and power metal a little bit, because they got a little more oomph to their music. Where I know plenty of metal fans who won't touch Giuffria with a 10-foot pole. Most people I know have a lot of respect for Angel if they've heard them. So I think House of Lords probably is the band that kind of flew under the radar a little bit for people because of when they came out, right? But they've been consistently pumping out records now for 30 years, I guess, other than that little break in the action for a few years. But yeah, so that's House of Lords. Self-titled is my wild card.
I think as well that Simon made a really good point earlier on that, and I am often slightly unkind about Frontiers, and it's a little bit unfair because they put out so much product. Some of it's really good, and invariably some of it's not going to be quite so good because they put out so much product. It used to be that if you were on Frontiers, it was pretty much a safe bet that what you were going to get was something to make you kind of stop and think, well, this is really, really good, because they were quite selective. I think now they've tried to cast their net wider, and in the same kind of way made their things narrower. It's this kind of, I find them a strange kind of proposition these days. And I actually wonder if a band like House of Lords, for people who haven't necessarily listened to them, there will be people that just immediately go, yeah, that's just going to be kind of, AOR, wimpy melodic rock, and don't really go and give it a listen. And I'll say it one more time. Simon's mentioned it earlier as well. Jimmy Bell, if you like a guitar player, I know people actually who really like latter day House of Lords, when really it's become James Christian's band and not Greg's band, that will listen to these albums purely because the guitar playing is so good. And that is an endorsement of what a great hard rock band they've become as well. It's been a kind of pop rock band too. But anyway, yeah. Enough from me. As always, I'm blethering on.
So there you have it, everybody. Our favorite, least favorite albums from the Angel family tree. So in the comments below, list your two least favorite from, Angel, House of Lords, and Giuffria, and your wild card if you'd like to do so. And Simon, you want to talk about next week's show? We're gonna go back to ranking the songs on classic albums next week for a really, really good one. And this is interesting because this is a album that Simon and I are big fans of, and it's kind of new to Steven. So we've been trying to do this when we can, whereas we pick an album that maybe one or more of us are either not huge fans of or not that familiar with, and then we have to get familiar with them and rank the song. So Simon, you want to divulge that? I don't know if we have already, but if not.
No, we haven't. It's the first album by David Soul. And oh no, it's not, son. Shit. It's not, it's not, it's not, it's not, it's not. I was going to do all that stuff about Steven's never heard. The Captain and Me by the Doobie Brothers, which I think is, I'm going to tell you now, I really like it. But I'm genuinely interested because it seems so far out of Steven's wheelhouse that I'm genuinely interested to know what he thinks.
Yeah, me too.
I haven't listened to it yet. It is first on the list for tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to it because you two have assured me that it's gold. So if it's not the best album I've ever heard, well.
Yeah, and I've already done the context for it because it didn't charge in the UK. So piece of piss, this, isn't it? Really?
I do want to mention before we go, I completely forgot we were talking about James Christian and House of Lords. He was in a prog band in the 70s called Jasper Wrath. If for all of you House of Lords fans who maybe have not been aware of this little band, there is a Jasper Wrath anthology 69 to 76, which came out like in the mid 90s, which is, if you can get it, it's a really cool little anthology of all the recordings of Jasper Wrath. So that's the band he was in, prior to House of Lords, way prior. That's also really good. It's not ridiculously crazy 70s prog. It's definitely has some melodic AOR tendencies, but it's really, really cool. So it's kind of a cool little curiosity for those who want to investigate a little further. Another part of the whole family tree here. So
he didn't do, in between that and House of Lords, here I go to start again. He didn't do an awful lot. I mean, he was in Eyes, who did nothing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And he's credited as being the singer in a band called Kanata. He wasn't really. He's there and he sings lead on a couple of things, but he's mainly a backing vocalist. And considering what a talent he is, there's a real long gap.
10 years, like a decade,
and House of Lords. And you do just kind of want, how can a guy with that amount of talent spend like the key rock years not fronting a fantastic band?
Yeah. That's good stuff. Good stuff. So there you have it, everybody. So next week, Doobie Brothers classic album, ranking the songs, The Captain and Me. And Simon and I will both be taking part in a ranking the albums of 38 special over the next couple of weeks. So stay tuned for that.
I thought you'd forgot.
No, I did not forget. So that should be probably, I think that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. So we've got Black Label Society coming up this Sunday. Next Sunday, Jamie Laszlo and I are ranking the catalog of Swedish band Witchcraft. And then I think Simon and I will be on with 38 Special the following week. So coming up before the end of the month. So looking forward to that. It's hard to believe we never did that, but we did not. So now we're bringing it to you. So better late than never, I always say. So there you have it, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Not in Poughkeepsie, New York. Stay tuned next week for our Doobie Brothers show. And please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell. Yes, that little bell thingy there. Very, very important. And also, please hit that like button. Yes, very important to the algorithm. And we'll see you next week here on the UK Connection. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, everybody. It's been a pleasure. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.